In the year 2147, Earth was a world trying to heal. After decades of environmental disasters and wars, humanity had finally found some peace. The United Earth Federation, or UEF, governed most of the planet. People were rebuilding cities, planting forests, and dreaming of a better future. But not everyone saw humans as survivors. Far away, in the vastness of space, the Dominion Empire watched Earth with cold disdain. To them, humans were weak, unworthy of their attention until now. New Chicago was one of the largest cities on Earth, a shining example of human resilience. Towering skyscrapers rose above streets buzzing with life. In the heart of the city stood Fort Valor, home to Task Force Aurora, an elite military unit trained for emergencies. Captain Ryan Carter led the team. He was a man of few words, but immense determination. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Emma Dawson, was sharp and resourceful, always thinking 2 steps ahead. Together, they drilled their soldiers daily, preparing for threats no one could predict. But lately, strange reports had been coming in. Ships spotted near Earth's orbit, unexplained signals jamming communication satellites. Rumors spread about the Dominion Empire's movements. Some dismissed it as paranoia, but Emma wasn't so sure. She spent hours poring over intelligence data, piecing together fragments of information. Something big was happening, and she felt it in her bones. One evening, after another long day of training, Ryan walked into the command center. Emma was there, staring at a holographic map of the solar system. Her face was tense, her fingers tapping nervously on the console. "What's wrong?" Ryan asked, his voice calm but firm. "I don't like this," Emma replied without looking up. "Look at these patterns. These aren't random flybys. They're probing us, testing our defenses." Ryan studied the map. Clusters of red dots marked areas where unidentified ships had been detected. It did look suspicious. "You think it's the Dominion?" "I know it is," Emma said, "and we're not ready for them." Before Ryan could respond, alarms blinked. Through the base, a young officer rushed in, holding a tablet. "Sir, ma'am, urgent message from HQ. We've intercepted a transmission. It's from the Dominion." Ryan and Emma exchanged a glance. This was it. Whatever they'd feared was here. The officer played the recording. A deep, distorted voice filled the room. "To the humans of Earth, your time has ended. You are unworthy of this galaxy. Prepare for judgment." The room fell silent. No one spoke. The weight of those words hung heavy in the air. Ryan broke the silence first. "Send this to all UEF bases. Full alert status. And tell HQ, we need reinforcements here immediately." As the officer left, Emma turned to Ryan. "Do you think they'll listen? Half the council still thinks the Dominion won't attack." "They will now," Ryan said grimly. "We've got work to do." Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over New Chicago. The city lights flickered on, oblivious to the storm brewing above. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, the Dominion Empire prepared its forces. Humanity didn't know it yet, but the battle for survival was about to begin. The next morning, New Chicago buzzed with tension. News of the Dominion's message had spread quickly through the UEF channels, but public announcements were delayed to avoid panic. Still, whispers of war echoed in the streets. At Fort Valor, Captain Ryan Carter and Lieutenant Emma Dawson worked tirelessly to prepare their unit for what might come. Task Force Aurora was one of the best-trained groups in the UEF, but even they couldn't match the advanced technology of the Dominion Empire. In a secure meeting room, Ryan gathered his core team. Alongside Emma sat Corporal Jake Miller, a skilled soldier known for his quick thinking under pressure, and Dr. Laura Bennett's assistant, Clara Hayes, who had arrived unexpectedly the night before. Clara carried encrypted data drives from Dr. Bennett's lab in the Arctic Circle. The scientist herself had gone into hiding after uncovering something critical about the Dominion's plans. Clara placed the drives on the table. Dr. Bennett sent me here because she believes you're our best chance, she said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. These contain blueprints for experimental weapons designed specifically to counter Dominion technology. Ryan leaned forward. Weapons? What kind? Emma took the lead, inserting one of the drives into a console. A holographic display lit up, showing schematics of a sleek, metallic device. This is called the Eclipse Cannon, she explained. It uses quantum resonance frequencies to overload Dominion shields. If we can build it, we might stand a fighting chance. Jake raised an eyebrow. That's assuming we live long enough to use it. Building this thing won't be easy, and we don't exactly have time on our side. He was right. Outside, the skies grew darker not from clouds, but from distant flashes lighting up the atmosphere. The Dominion fleet was maneuvering closer, their massive ships casting ominous shadows over Earth. Every hour brought them nearer. Every minute tightened the noose around humanity's neck. President William Hayes appeared on screens across the base, addressing the UEF Council. His face was grim as he spoke about the Dominion's declaration. We cannot ignore this threat any longer, he said firmly. The enemy believes us weak, divided. We must prove them wrong. Humanity has faced extinction before, and we will not falter now. His speech stirred courage among the troops, but doubts lingered. Back in the meeting room, Ryan turned to his team. We need more than speeches. We need action. Clara, how soon can we access Dr. Bennett's lab? Clara hesitated. The lab's location is classified, and getting there won't be safe. It's deep in the Arctic, far from any support. Plus, the Dominion likely knows about it by now. Then we'll make it safe, Ryan replied. If the Eclipse Cannon is real, it's worth the risk. Emma nodded, already sketching out a plan. We'll assemble a small team. Travel light. Move fast. The less attention we draw, the better. As the group dispersed to prepare, Emma stayed behind, staring at the hologram of the Eclipse Cannon. Its sleek design gave her hope, but also fear. Could such a weapon truly turn the tide, or would it become another lost cause in humanity's desperate struggle? Later that evening, Ryan found Emma on the roof of the command center, gazing up at the stars. You think we can pull this off? He asked quietly. She didn't answer immediately. Finally, she sighed. I don't know, but I do know one thing: we don't have a choice. If we fail, billions die. That's enough to keep me going. Ryan nodded, his jaw tightening. Above them, the first Dominion ship entered orbit, its shadow stretching across the city, like a predator stalking its prey. The calm before the storm was over. War was coming, and humanity had no room for hesitation. The night sky over New Chicago turned blood red as the first wave of Dominion ships descended. Without warning, beams of energy tore through the atmosphere, striking key locations across the city. Explosions erupted in fiery bursts, sending shockwaves that shattered windows and toppled buildings. The ground shook violently, throwing people to their knees. Panic spread like wildfire as civilians scrambled for shelter. At Fort Valor, alarms screamed non-stop. Task Force Aurora sprang into action, donning gear and grabbing weapons. Captain Ryan Carter barked orders, his voice cutting through the chaos. Secure the perimeter. Get civilians to safety. Soldiers rushed to obey, forming defensive lines while others guided terrified citizens toward underground bunkers. Lieutenant Emma Dawson coordinated efforts from the command center, relaying updates and mapping enemy movements. The Dominion's attack was relentless. Orbital bombardments rained down, targeting power plants, communication hubs, and military installations. Thick plumes of smoke choked the air, making it hard to see or breathe. Through the haze, strange figures began descending from dropships. Dominion soldiers, clad in sleek black armor, armed with advanced weaponry far beyond anything humanity possessed. Emma monitored surveillance feeds, her heart pounding as she watched the invaders advance. Their leader, Commander Cale Vorn, stood out among them. Tall and imposing, he moved with an eerie precision, directing his troops with cold efficiency. "They're heading straight for us," Emma reported to Ryan over comms. "We can't hold them off forever." Ryan gritted his teeth, knowing she was right. Task Force Aurora was outnumbered and outgunned. Still, they fought fiercely, using every trick they knew to slow the enemy's advance. Jake Miller led a squad in flanking maneuvers, taking out small groups of Dominion soldiers with quick bursts of gunfire. But for every foe they eliminated, 2 more seemed to take their place. Amid the chaos, Ryan spotted Emma near the edge of the battlefield, helping injured civilians reach safety. A Dominion drone swooped low, firing at her position. Time slowed as Ryan sprinted toward her, tackling her to the ground, just as a blast scorched the earth where she'd stood moments before. For a brief second, their eyes met, wide with adrenaline and relief. "Thanks," Emma muttered, brushing herself off. "Don't mention it," Ryan replied, pulling her back to her feet. "Stay sharp. We're not done yet." As the fighting intensified, news arrived that the Vortex Legion, the Dominion's elite warriors, had landed near Lake Michigan, cutting off escape routes from the city. Desperation gripped the survivors. If reinforcements didn't arrive soon, New Chicago would fall. Back at the command center, Emma studied maps and intel reports, searching for any advantage. Her gaze lingered on the data drives Clara had brought. The Eclipse cannon might be humanity's only hope, but reaching Dr. Bennett's lab felt impossible now. Still, giving up wasn't an option. She turned to Ryan, who had just returned from the front lines. His face was streaked with soot, but his determination burned brighter than ever. "We need to get to the Arctic," Emma said firmly. "If we can build the cannon, maybe we can turn this around." Ryan nodded. "Then we'll go, no matter what it takes." Outside, the battle raged on. Fires lit up the horizon, painting the ruins of New Chicago in shades of orange and red. The Dominion's forces closed in, relentless and merciless. Humanity's future hung by a thread, but within the hearts of those still standing, a spark of defiance refused to die. The journey to the Arctic began, under the cover of darkness. Ryan, Emma, Jake, and Clara set out in a heavily modified transport vehicle designed for harsh climates. The plan was simple: travel light, avoid detection, and reach Dr. Bennett's lab as quickly as possible. But nothing about this mission would be easy. As they left the smoldering remains of New Chicago behind, the weight of what they were leaving pressed heavily on their minds. Thousands were still trapped in the city, fighting or hiding from the Dominion forces. Ryan gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white. He didn't speak much, focusing instead on navigating the icy roads ahead. Emma sat beside him, staring at maps and intel reports, her mind racing with calculations and contingencies. Jake and Clara sat in the back, checking supplies and weapons. "We're going to need more than luck to pull this off," Jake muttered, examining a rifle. Clara nodded, her expression grim. "If the Dominion finds us before we get to the lab, it's over. We can't let that happen." Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the hum of the engine and the howling wind outside. The landscape grew colder and bleaker, snow piling up around them like a suffocating blanket. Visibility dropped as a storm rolled in, forcing Ryan to slow the vehicle to a crawl. Each passing minute felt like an eternity by the time they reached the outskirts of the Arctic Circle. Exhaustion weighed on everyone. They stopped briefly to rest and refuel, huddling together for warmth inside the cramped vehicle. Emma pulled out the data drives, reviewing the schematics of the Eclipse cannon once more. "This weapon changes everything," she said quietly. "But building it won't matter if we don't survive long enough to use it." Ryan glanced at her, his face unreadable. "Then we keep moving. No stopping until we get there." The next leg of their journey took them deeper into the frozen wilderness. The terrain became treacherous, with jagged ice formations and hidden crevices threatening to swallow the vehicle whole. At one point, the engine sputtered, nearly giving out entirely. Jake worked tirelessly to repair it, his hands numb from the cold but steady, despite the danger. Finally, after what felt like days, they arrived at the coordinates of Dr. Bennett's lab. What they found was not encouraging. The facility was abandoned, its entrance sealed shut and surrounded by signs of recent activity. Scorch marks marred the walls, evidence of Dominion patrols searching for clues or survivors. "This doesn't look good," Jake whispered. Scanning the area for movement, Emma stepped forward, clutching a handheld device linked to the data drives. "The encryption key should still work," she said, inserting it into a control panel near the door. After a moment of suspense, the lock clicked open, revealing a dimly lit corridor beyond. Inside, the lab was eerily silent. Machines stood dormant, papers scattered across desks as though someone had fled in a hurry. Clara moved quickly, accessing terminals and downloading additional files. "Dr. Bennett left instructions," she announced. "She knew we'd come." Ryan kept watch near the entrance, his weapon ready. "We don't have much time. If the Dominion tracked us here," he was cut off by the sound of engines in the distance. Everyone froze, listening as the noise grew louder. The enemy had found them. Emma turned to Ryan, her voice urgent. "We need to grab what we can and leave. Now." They worked frantically, gathering blueprints, tools, and components needed to assemble the Eclipse cannon. Outside, the roar of Dominion ships echoed through the icy air, growing closer with each passing second. As the first shadows appeared on the horizon, Ryan made a decision. "We'll split up," he said firmly. "Jake, take Clara and head east. Draw their attention away from us. Emma and I will go west with the supplies." Jake hesitated, but nodded. "Be careful." With no time to argue, the group separated, disappearing into the blinding snowstorm. Behind them, Dominion soldiers closed in, their weapons glowing ominously in the darkness. The race against time had begun, and failure was not an option. The storm raged on as Ryan and Emma trudged through the icy wilderness, their arms laden with supplies from Dr. Bennett's lab. Every step was a battle against the biting cold and the ever-present threat of Dominion soldiers closing in. Behind them, faint sounds of gunfire echoed the diversion Jake and Clara had promised was working, but for how long? "We can't stop," Ryan said between ragged breaths, his voice barely audible over the wind. "If they catch us, it's over." Emma nodded, clutching a metal case containing critical components for the Eclipse cannon. Her fingers were numb and her legs burned with exhaustion, but she pushed forward. The weight of what they carried on, what it represented, kept her moving. This weapon wasn't just their hope, it was humanity's last chance. The two soldiers stayed low, using the snowdrifts and jagged ice formations to shield themselves from aerial patrols. Above, Dominion drones swept the area, their red sensors cutting through the haze like predatory eyes. Each time one passed overhead, Ryan and Emma froze, pressing themselves into the freezing ground until the hum of its engines faded. After hours of relentless trekking, they reached a narrow ravine that offered temporary cover. Ryan signaled for Emma to stop. They collapsed against the icy walls, gasping for air. Their faces were pale, lips cracked from the cold, but neither dared complain. There was no room for weakness now. "We need to figure out where we're heading next," Emma said, pulling out a map. Her gloved hands trembled as she unfolded it. "Without Jake or Clara, we're blind up here." Ryan scanned the horizon, squinting through the swirling snow. "There's an old research outpost about 20 kilometers northeast. If it hasn't been destroyed, we might find shelter there and maybe even some fuel for a distress signal." Emma hesitated. "Do you think anyone will pick it up?" Most of UEF command is either overrun or cut off. It's all we've got, Ryan replied grimly. If we don't try, we'll die out here anyway. They set off again, their pace slower. This time, but no less determined. The ravine provided some protection from the elements, though every gust of wind threatened to knock them off balance. As they moved, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She glanced over her shoulder repeatedly, half expecting Dominion troops to appear at any moment. Hours later, just as hope began to fade, the outline of a structure emerged from the wide outer crumbling outpost, barely visible beneath layers of ice and snow. Ryan approached cautiously, his rifle raised. He motioned for Emma to stay back while he checked inside. The interior was dark and frigid, but intact. Supplies were scarce, most had been scavenged long ago, but there was enough to make do. In the corner, an old communication console sat unused, its screen cracked but functional. Ryan tapped it experimentally, and to his relief, a faint hum indicated power still flowed through the system. This could work, he said, turning to Emma. We can send a message, call for backup, or at least let someone know we're alive. Emma nodded, setting down the metal case carefully. Start the transmission. I'll see if there's anything useful left in these crates. As Ryan worked on the console, typing out coordinates and a desperate plea for assistance, Emma rummaged through the remnants of the outpost, among broken tools and empty ration packs. She found something unexpected, a small handheld device labeled Quantum Resonance Modulator. It was crude, clearly a prototype, but it matched the schematics for the Eclipse cannon. Ryan, she called, holding up the device. This might help us activate the cannon faster. He looked up, his face lighting up with cautious optimism. Good, we'll need everything we can get. But before they could celebrate, the sound of engines roared in the distance. The Dominion had found them again. Outside, shadows moved across the snow, closing in on the outpost. Ryan grabbed his rifle, his jaw tightening. Stay behind me, he ordered. Emma clutched the modulator tightly, her heart pounding. They had come so far, risked so much. Now, with the enemy at their doorstep, survival depended on more than skill, it required sheer willpower. And as the first Dominion soldier kicked open the door, Ryan fired without hesitation, vowing silently that they wouldn't give up, not now, not ever.